I've been getting a lot of questions lately about cameras. What do I use? What would I recommend? What should you buy if you're just starting off as a content creator? So instead of answering countless DMs and comments, let's just break it down today. So for my main camera, if I had to sell everything today and just use one camera with one lens, it would be this, the Sony FX3 with the 16-35 f2.8. But I will say, if I had to start over again on a budget, I wouldn't pick this camera. Okay, so let's back up a little bit. I've owned multiple Sony cameras throughout the years. I've been mainly a Sony shooter since 2016. I started on the Sony A6300. Shout out to all the OGs out there. I really feel like that camera changed the game for everything. Now I'm a full-time content creator with a creative background. I create YouTube videos, short form content, live streams. I work on product shots. I work with brands making videos about products. So at this point, this isn't just a hobby. This is a full-time creator business. So why the Sony FX3? First off, this thing's a powerhouse. In any condition possible, I know it's gonna run, especially with the built-in fans and the anti-overheating mechanics that it has in it. There's no recording limits with this. I don't have to question if in a potential situation, if it's just gonna randomly shut off. I also fell in love with the form factor of this. It's got a cinema-esque body. You get these mounting points all over the camera, so you don't need a cage for this to be able to mount accessories to it. Like for example, I mounted this vertical side plate, so that way I could be shooting horizontal and then just flip it, be shooting vertical. Shout out to Jayhawk on that idea. But if I was to summarize the build of this, it feels like a creative tool. I forget about it and it just allows me the ability to create. And I feel like the best camera is the one that disappears while you're working. Now here's the only catch when talking about this camera. The reality is 99% of content creators don't need this camera. It's expensive. It is an older generation. It's been out for years now. A lot of people complain that there's no open gate with it. And in 2026, competitors have better options and features for less. And here's the kicker, with features in this camera and in some of the competitors to this camera, none of these features actually make your content better. Again, all this is a tool to make producing the content easier. That's why if I could only have one lens and one camera, I would stack it with the 16-35. You get those wide shots, you get the nice tight shots, you get the smooth bokeh and the separation in the background, image stabilization, good colors. But if I had to start over, I could save thousands of dollars. So the camera that I actually suggest to most content creators is the Sony FX30, which is a crop sensor version of this camera. So you essentially get the same body, the same fan, the same mechanics, a lot of the same tools, but it's crop sensor versus full frame. Now I've made videos over the years on the difference between full frame and crop sensor. And let me just tell you this, the majority of viewers don't know, nor do they care. The argument in the content creation world of crop sensor versus full frame really comes down to the creators and creatives. Like, of course, when you break it down, full frame is better than crop sensor. But in the content that we're creating, by the time everything renders and processes and compresses to the platforms, and the majority of people that consume content watch on 720p and 1080p, at that rate, nobody can really tell the difference that you shot on full frame versus crop sensor. And a lot of people aren't even educated enough to care, even if they were watching full 4K and a lossless video quality. I test this theory all the time. I just like to screw with people. One of my YouTube videos talking about full frame versus crop sensor, I actually recorded the majority of the video on crop sensor, but I built up this idea that eventually I was gonna show the comparison to crop sensor, but I really wanted to just trick people into saying, yeah, I could clearly tell the quality at the start was the full frame camera. And it worked. I know it's immature, but I really can't stand when people put the pressure on up and coming creators that have a smaller budget into thinking that they need something that they genuinely don't need. It's funny, I actually get a lot of compliments on my streams, but I actually essentially use the camera in a crop sensor mode. It's a extreme dulled down version. You don't get the full frame benefits. And I even use a crop sensor lens on the camera when I stream. And I always get so many compliments of how good it looks. And a lot of people just assume it's a full frame camera with a full frame lens. The reality is, for the majority of content creators, the FX30 is not only just fine, it is above what they even need. On top of that, it's just way more affordable. On the camera body alone with the Sony FX3, I'm pretty sure it's still like $3,700. You can get FX30s for under $2,000. And then once you get the camera, the lenses are cheaper too, but again, it still looks the same. So like this particular setup here is like $6,500. And for $2,200, you can pretty much get the same look. Now, I will give an honorable mention for creators and creatives that have already started to get into the full frame landscape, but maybe can't afford the Sony FX3. One camera I could recommend is the Sony A7 IV. This is my secondary shooter in 2026, and I love this camera. But if you really want some of the sensor benefits from the FX3, and you want tools built into the camera that help as a creator, the Sony ZV-E1 is really good. The biggest downside to that, because it doesn't have the built-in fan for cooling, is it does overheat at long recording times, especially in extreme heating conditions. Like, I wouldn't recommend recording podcasts on that thing or using it as a stream camera, but it's basically the same sensor as the FX3 with a smaller body. And for the price, it's a great entry level for full frame cameras. It's perfect for run and gun, especially for vertical content. And at the price point, it's very good for entry level full frame cameras. You don't get the mounting points, but they do make like cage brackets on Amazon. It's less of a production tool and more just consumer oriented. It's just very easy to navigate. So the Sony ZV-E1 can give a lot of people the full frame look. The FX30, I feel like, just gives an all around creator workflow. And then the FX3 gives you confidence. But here's the thing, guys. Let me just remind everybody, as I've been getting so many of these comments and questions lately in terms of camera gear, microphones, lighting. For the vast majority of viewers, they don't really care about the gear that you use. All they simply want is clarity, decent audio, and decent lighting. So you don't need the best of the best. The light that I use to this day is only like $160 LED light. Or like my current microphone setup for streaming is super expensive, but I used an entry-level Rode pod mic for years. And as a content creator, a vast majority of my most viral videos were just recorded on a cell phone. I'm telling you right now, you cannot out-gear bad storytelling. If people don't fuck with you in your content, they're not gonna fuck with you because your video looks better. I've built full-time creator income on crop mode and in full frame mode and with third-party cheaper lenses. Your camera sensor is not what builds your brand and pays you. So yeah, if I was forced to keep one, I'd go with the FX3, 16 to 35 millimeter. If I was starting over, I'd go with the FX30 and just a couple prime lens options, like a 30 millimeter, a 15 millimeter, and maybe a super wide angle. And if I just had to branch into full frame and I wanted to get a good start in something as a content creator, I'd go with the ZV-E1. But the key point is, don't buy the most expensive camera, buy the one that will allow you to show up consistently. That's all I got for you guys today. I'm out, peace, deuces.